Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all, and I do mean all, of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. So, I did not have a show last week, and the main reason for that is just that, I'll be completely honest, I recorded a show, and OBS fucked up, and it didn't save the video, and I was just like, no. Just so you know, you can tell by the sub count, you can tell by the views on my channel. This is not my full-time job. You know, if things were to happen and this were to turn into my full-time job, that would be awesome. But that is not where we're at the moment. And I was literally just like, and I record this show like right when I get off of work as well. So I just want to, this is a bit of complaining before the show starts, but I'm explaining why there wasn't a show last week. And I just got enough of work. I record the show, and when it fucked up, and I was like, I'm just not going to record it again. It's just not something that I'm gonna do. So my apologies if there's anybody out there as of right now that like awaits every week for the show to come out. My apologies, but hopefully that doesn't happen this week. And if it were to happen this week, I would re-record it. So my apologies for not being on my Sigma grind set and valuing my mental health and not re-recording the show last week. But it's what it is. All the topics are still in the docket, so we're just gonna go through everything. So it's not like we're missing any reporting here. So we got quite a bit of stuff to get through. So let's get through it, I guess. First up, there was another trailer for the Fallout series. This is the official trailer, and I gotta say, this was really great. I would say it's a step up from the first trailer, in the sense that this is like one of the best trailers that I think I've ever seen when it comes to introducing like the show or the movie in the trailer, explaining everything, like really making you understand what this world is, the complexities of it, who our main character is, what they're doing. Like, I just thought it was a phenomenal trailer, and just overall, the show looks really great. I'm not a Fallout fan. I've never played any of the games. I vaguely know about it just from like hearing about it and seeing stuff on like YouTube, like some videos and whatnot, but I've never played any of the games, so I'm definitely coming in new to the franchise, and I think the show just looks phenomenal. Love the old-timey aesthetic. I just really love it when like alternate history stuff where it's like I guess it would be like alternate history post-apocalypses. Where a society is like frozen in time. So it's this post-apocalypse, but it's like old-timey stuff and like and imagery and whatnot. And it's really cool stuff. So I'm excited. Walton Goggins, Deadpool. Let's go. All right, let's get into our first story. Wendell Pierce has been cast as Perry White. It's come from The Hollywood Reporter. Perry White has been found. Wendell Pierce, perhaps best known for his work as a detective on HBO's seminal crime series The Wire, has been cast as the iconic editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet in James Gunn's Superman. I don't know this actor. I never watched The Wire. I know I'm a terrible person. I'll fix my crimes at some point, but I've never seen The Wire. I don't really know this actor from anywhere. I'm sure I've seen him in something, but yeah, I just don't really know him. But I trust James Gunn when it comes to casting. I think he generally does a pretty bang-up job, so I'm sure this guy will be great. Generally speaking, I don't get too emotional about castings where it's like, I need this guy to play the role. If it's not him, then I refused. You know, I'm not that kind of person. So I didn't even have anybody that I wanted to play Perry White. We'll see how he does. All right, next up. Do you guys remember Hogwarts Legacy? Do you remember how that released last year? Do you remember how it was the highest selling single player game of the year last year? Or highest selling game of the year last year? It's the only, I remember reading somewhere, I don't have the exact statistics here, but it was like, for the past like 14 years or something, the only there's never been a number one selling game of the year that wasn't Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. Hogwarts Legacy finally broke that streak. Biggest success of the year last year. This year, or highest selling game of the year, sorry. Last year. This year, Warner Brothers puts out Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Absolute disaster. In large part because they took Rocksteady, who's a fucking single-player game developer, and they were like, go make a live service game, it'll be fine. And Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League turned out the way it did. It's performing horribly. They've already I'm pretty sure they've already dropped or they've put it on sale, blah 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 blah. Like, obviously it's not doing well. What lesson does Warner Brothers take from this? Is it, hey, we should probably focus on single player stuff? Well, let's find out. This is coming from Video Games Chronicle. J.B. Perrette, the company's CEO of global streaming and games, said the majority of our business revolves around 4 main forms of IP in games. By the way, they then went on to clarify that the 4 main IP is Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, DC, and Harry Potter. Going back to this. The challenge we've had is that our business historically there has been very AAA console based, and so, as you know, that's a great business when you have a hit like Harry Potter. We also have disappointments. We just released Suicide Squad this quarter, which was not as strong. It just makes it very volatile. The opportunity is to take those 4 franchises and be able to develop a much more holistic approach, particularly around expanding into the mobile and multi-platform free-to-play space, which could give us a much better and consistent set of revenue. How do we develop a game around, for example, Hogwarts Legacy or Harry Potter that is a live service where people can come today and live and work and build and play in that world on an ongoing basis? How do you come to this conclusion? It's so bizarre. It's so antithetical to fucking reality. Now, I will say, he's not like he didn't explicitly say that we're never gonna get more single player games. I'm sure they will, right? Like, I'm sure we're still gonna get those. Like the Wonder Woman game that's coming out, that's supposed to be single player. We know that James Gunn is making games that's set in his DCU. So if a game that comes out and is like in the DCU, I have a hard time imagining that would be a live service game. I don't think that James Gunn would go for that, but I can't say for sure. And yeah, he didn't explicitly say that we're never going to get more live service games, but it sounds like we're going to get a lot less of them. That moving forward, their like holistic approach is moving towards mobile gaming and live service gaming. And I think that there are some examples as to what they could mean by that. I think like for Hogwarts Legacy, they're probably looking at something like Genshin Impact as a potential inspiration, where if you've seen Genshin Impact, it's an open world game that you can play by yourself, from what I understand. And it's like an open world game that you go and you do side quests, blah, 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 like Hogwarts Legacy was. I believe Hogwarts Legacy was like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. It might be like Open Zone or something like that. So they might be looking at like Genshin Impact, where it's like, what if we did something like that, where we could charge people for stuff and make it multiplayer and blah, 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 blah. That could be what they're going for, and maybe cut down on the budget maybe somehow, because it seems like they also want to get out of like the AAA gaming market. I mean, that's what they're saying, right? Console based. They're saying that they want to move away from the console based AAA gaming market. So, and if they're going multi-platform, that means making like less expensive games, I would assume. And it's just weird that I don't understand how they can look at Hogwarts Legacy and Suicide Squad and just not understand, because they've had successes with Batman in the past where it's like, just make great games. Also, don't make a Suicide Squad game that's like AAA. Like, that's obviously never going to be as successful as Harry Potter. That's obviously never going to be as successful as the Batman games. Like, I just don't understand how you made a Suicide Squad game be your big live service push, and you're like shocked. You're like surprised Pikachu face when it's not as successful. And then on top of that, you made a shitty game. There's so many problems here. Like you got Rocksteady, the guys that made the Batman Arkham games. You got them to make a live service Suicide Squad game, a studio that is like renowned for their single player games, their single player narrative driven games. You get them to make a live service game that's already a recipe for disaster. You get them to make a Suicide Squad live service game that's never going to pop off in the way that you wanted it to. Like, a Suicide Squad live service game, it could be a fairly decent success, right? Like we've seen with Helldivers, if it comes out and it's great. That could happen. It's never going to be Fortnite. And that's actually the other thing. The other thing I want to bring up is, I'm not actually surprised that they didn't learn this lesson. It's an obvious lesson to learn, but there's a reality here that I think we have to contend with. Okay, so I just did some rough math here just to make sure I have all my numbers in order. Sorry. So, Hogwarts Legacy. It is the epitome of success for a single-player game. And it is very rare that a single-player game will ever make as much money as Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy sold 24 million copies. That's like the last number that we got, right? So, again, I did some rough math here. Might be a little higher, might be a little lower in terms of the profit, but it made around $1 billion in revenue. Because this is literally what I did. I'm going to explain myself. I made about $1 billion in profit. When you just multiply 24 million by 70, you get like 1.6 billion. I just assume, that they probably spent like $100 million in marketing. Who knows? It could be more than that. It could be less than that. And then storefronts, right? Your PlayStation store. Broadly speaking, there are like deals that are made. Well, blah blah blah. They take about a 30% cut. So when I did my rough math, I got like $1 billion in profit. That is the epitome. That is like the most success that you could possibly ask for in single-player games. Fortnite in 2023 made $4.4 billion. 2022, they made $5.2 billion. 2021, $5.7 billion. 2020, $5.1 billion. 2019, $4.2 billion. 2018, $5.6 billion. In 2024, it's expected to generate $5.7 billion. That's why Warner Brothers is not going to give up on live service. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And here's my whole thing. I understand trying to go for that bag because as an executive, you look like a fucking moron when you're like going to your investors and you're like, "Hey, yeah, you know that insanely successful money generating game Fortnite? Yeah, we're not trying to compete with that." Like, I get it. I get that you have to go for it. But you have to but honestly, this is all I ask. Don't get Rocksteady to make those games. Build a new studio that's focused on live service. Don't get Rocksteady. Don't get W Games Montreal. Don't get the guys that made Hogwarts Legacy. Don't get the guys that are making your Wonder Woman game. Get somebody else to do it for you. Build a new studio to start this initiative. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like I said before, we're getting a single-player Wonder Woman game. You better make sure you buy that shit. Holy shit, with the state of the video games industry. You better make sure you buy that. um, if James Gunn makes games that are in the DCU, I have to imagine that those are going to be single player games. So I'm not trying to say that everything is doomed, but it is worrying. It is distressing. And remember, as a consumer, all we can do is vote for your wallets. I didn't buy Suicide Squad. So there you go. Yeah, let's move on to the next story. I probably spent way too much time on this. Disney, they do be killing off projects and whatnot. So let's get into what the Hollywood Reporter has to say about that. It's not an easy thing, but you got to make those tough calls. We've actually made those tough calls. We've not been that public about it, but we've killed a few projects already that we just didn't feel were strong enough. Bob Iger had this to say. So, big question is, what did you kill off, Bob? And I got some. I just picked up some random projects that I think would make sense. So let's get into them. First, the first place my mind went to was Armor Wars. I mean, this is that Don Cheadle led War Machine movie. This is just a project that nobody's asking for. I mean, yeah, I don't think this is gonna end up happening. Listen, I love the Cheeds. Okay, really like Rhodey in the MCU. But I just suspect that that's something that if you are going to cut something, that would be the thing you cut. Because at this point in the MCU, where its reputation is at, I don't think that audiences are going to go out to see an Armor Wars movie just because it's an MCU project. So I think that's the first one my mind went to. You got to go for Blade. I mean, listen. The project has just been going through way too much strife for me to not see that as like a viable thing. That yes, this absolutely could end up getting canceled. Now again, obviously we've heard that they've started it from scratch, similar to Daredevil Born Again. Seems like that's going through, and that they hired like new writers, and there are reports saying that Mahershala Ali is happy with the way things are going. But if you're Bob Iger and you're like, hey, this thing has gone through so much strife. We've already wasted a ton of money on it. I'm Bob Iger. I'm cutting it. That is a reality. That is a very real reality. So I think Blade could absolutely be one of these movies. This is a bit of a cheeky option here, but I got to go with the Kang Dynasty. I mean, we know that they're changing the name of it. We know that that they're changing the story, that they're trying to remove Kang from it, like possibly entirely. So it's like, at what point during that process has the Kang Dynasty been scrapped and that it just becomes a new movie? I feel like we're kind of there probably at this point. So that's a cheeky answer, but I'm going with the Kang Dynasty as well. I feel like it's already been scrapped, basically. So now if we move on to... those are the Marvel movies that I think are scrapped. Although I will say there have been reports, actually... I forgot to add this in the in the docket. My bad. But actually there have been rumors, I should say. Oh, wait, by the way, this is from like one of those like weird Twitter scooper guys that I wouldn't report on anyways. So, but I guess I'll just add up front that... sorry, my mind is everywhere after that Hogwarts Legacy thing. I went on way too much of a rant about that. There are rumors that Marvel is probably not moving forward with like a Captain Marvel 3, a Eternals 2, and there was another project. And an Ant-Man 4. But those weren't announced, so I don't know. I wasn't counting that here. I was mostly going with stuff that they've announced. So, but yeah, it looks like those movies also probably won't happen, which I wouldn't be surprised about, given Bob Iger's statements. So now let's move on to Star Wars. Everything. Lucasfilm is an incompetent clown car of a company. Okay, anytime we talk about Lucasfilm, I feel like I should have a soundbite that's just going. I don't believe that any announced Star Wars project is happening until I'm actually in the theater. Until I'm actually in the theater watching it. So, I mean, yeah, when we talk about Star Wars projects that I think could be canceled, I wouldn't be surprised if the Taika Waititi movie gets canceled. In fact, I'm like 90% sure at this point that it is. I would not be surprised at all if the Rey movie ends up getting canceled, if the James Mangold, like Dawn of the Jedi movie gets canceled. I wouldn't even be surprised if Mandalorian and Grogu gets canceled, even though that's the one that seems to be like the one that's going to launch this new era of Star Wars. Would not be shocked if that gets canceled. Dave Filoni's new movie, I don't care what like status he is or what new position he has as like the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. His movie could get canceled. I don't know. Donald Glover's Lando movie, I'm sure that's going to get canceled. Sean Levy's apparently making a movie. That's probably going to get canceled. And you know what? I'm just going to skip all the way to the end. Collider's reporting here that Patty Jenkins is working on Rogue Squadron again. I'm not even going to bother reading this because that's probably going to get canceled. Who knows? Yeah, like any Star Wars movie is probably going to get canceled. But yeah, those are my picks for what I think is going to get canceled. I think those Marvel movies are probably going to get canceled, and literally every Star Wars movie is going to get canceled. They will never make another feature film again. All right, let's get into the next story. Avatar: The Last Airbender was a success on Netflix. No matter how many complaints you may have had about the series, no matter how many like discrepancies with the show, with the animated series that you may feel angry about, it was a success, and because of that, it has been renewed for seasons 2 and 3. So I think this is kind of a like I'm kind of happy about this because, by the way, I mean, I just flat out enjoyed the adaptation. But I totally understand that a lot of you guys didn't. But I just don't like watching Netflix shows because there's always like this anxiety that it's just gonna get canceled before it's finished. So the fact that we're now confirmed to be getting seasons 2 and 3 is good. I'm glad that it's at least going to get finished, and that I'm not going to have had my time wasted by watching it. So that's just inherently something that I'm always going to be happy about. And yeah, honestly, what I think they should do is just film the next 2 seasons back to back. Obviously that would take like like half a year to film, but I feel like it's worth it. Like if you know that you're going to do it, get the kids now before they're like 35, like we're seeing happening with the Stranger Things kids, and just finish the series, and then have a really, really long post-production process. I think that would be the way to go. Because if not, then the kid who plays Aang, he's going to be a 45-year-old man by the time he fights Firelord Ozai. So I think they should do that, but we'll see how they handle it. And hopefully, because I'll say this. I didn't love the first season. I liked it. But I think there's room to improve. I think that the kids, they could hone in their craft potentially, and maybe take some more acting lessons, because I don't think all of the performances were particularly strong in the first season. I think there can be better. I think the script writing could be better. I think some of the dialogue was maybe a bit too expository in the first season. So I definitely think that there are improvements that can be made, but overall I enjoyed it. So I'm excited to see where they go from here. All right, next up, James Gunn is talking about Peacemaker. So he's responding to a thing here where he says, Jennifer Holland confirms summer start for Peacemaker Season 2. James Gunn says, the source is kind of iffy, but this is true. John Cena shared this on Howard Stern last week. To answer your follow-up questions, yes, we'll be shooting Superman and Peacemaker simultaneously. Yes, I've written all the episodes, but no, in the interest of getting the show out there, I won't be able to direct them all, only some. And yes, Waller's still happening, and Jeremy and Crystal are hard at work at writing great stuff, but the schedule was impacted by the strikes, so it'll come after Peacemaker. So yeah, that's one of the things I vaguely remember from like his announcement video of the DCU. That yeah, I do think that Waller was supposed to come out before Peacemaker, But yeah, so I guess that's been delayed because of the strikes. Hopefully that doesn't affect the thing or whatever. But but yeah, James Gunn did confirm that somebody responded to him. He said, originally you said Waller was Peacemaker season 1.5. Is it still true and Waller will be some kind of prequel, or will now take place after the events of season 2 of Peacemaker? Now he's saying that everything in Waller will take place after Peacemaker. So yeah, when I said that, hopefully this doesn't mess things up. Hopefully that we don't get like weird, like bad writing because they're like hurriedly trying to like rework the timeline and whatnot. So we'll see what happens with that. And then he also like tried to clarify stuff about the Peacemaker canonicity. So someone asked him, is Peacemaker still connected to the DCEU? And James Gunn said season 2 is full DCU, not DCEU. And listen, this is just one of those things where this is where the DCU could potentially find a pitfall where it's just too confusing. Like if Viola Davis's Amanda Waller is coming back for Waller and that's in the DCU, and we're getting a weird situation where John Cena's Peacemaker is going to be in the DCU, but season 1 of that show is not in the new universe, it could just get too confusing. So we'll see how he handles it. But then James Gunn also does say that is that important? Meaning events in Superman will have, well, someone asked him this, meaning events in Superman will have an impact on Peacemaker season 2. James Gunn says yes. Which again is just like, it's just like a little weird because it's like I don't really want Superman to be like carrying the, or I should say be like I just want Superman to be a great movie. I don't want it to like be like necessary viewing for like Peacemaker season 2 and stuff like that. It's like I don't know. I don't know. At the end of the day, we have to wait to see it, but there's some timeline stuff that is potentially going to be confusing, and hopefully James navigates it correctly. Next up, let's talk about the Mario movie. This is a little update video, so let's get into it.
私たちは今、イルミネーションの皆さんとスーパーマリオの新しいアニメ映画に取り組んでいます。昨年春に公開したザ・スーパーマリオブラザーズ・ムービーは、2023年のホリデーから今年にかけてもたくさんの方々にご覧いただいています。皆さん本当にありがとうございます。今回の映画もザ・スーパーマリオブラザーズ・ムービーを一緒に作ったイルミネーションの主要メンバーと任天堂で協力しながら制作していますよ。それではクリスさんにも登場いただきましょう。クリスさん。
Hello, and happy Mario Day to everyone watching. I'm thrilled to be here alongside Miyamoto-san to officially announce our return to the Super Mario Brothers. Our directors, Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelinek, and the very talented artists from Illumination Studios Paris, who brought the Mushroom Kingdom to life in the Super Mario Brothers movie, have been busy at work storyboarding scenes and developing set designs for new environments. We start animation soon, and rest assured we'll be obsessing over every detail to get it just right. The film will arrive on April 3rd, 2026 in the US and many other markets globally.
私たちは今、イルミネーションの皆さんとスーパーマリオの新しい
Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened with the video there. but yep, no surprise there. We're getting a new Mario movie coming up. I think you said April 23rd, 2026. Not surprising. I've heard some people look at like Miyamoto's wording there where he's like, we're making a new movie in the world of Super Mario Brothers. You know, that they didn't necessarily say that it was Super Mario Brothers 2. So people have been wondering like, oh, is this going to be a Donkey Kong movie or something weird like that? I highly doubt it. After the success of the Mario Brothers movie, I think you just make a Mario movie too. Like, I feel like that's just what you do. I don't think they're going to do something weird like that. I mean, at the most, it's like a Mario and Donkey Kong like team up movie, and it's called Mario and Donkey Kong Partners in Time or something. I don't know. It might be something weird like that, but Mario will be in the name and Mario will have a heavy part to play in it. I didn't love the Mario movie. I'll be honest. I thought it was very soulless and just cash grabby, in my opinion. I didn't think it was very good. So hopefully the second one is better, but I'm also in the minority, so they'll probably double down on everything that they did that I didn't like in the first one. So we'll see. Let's move on to the next story. So there's been a lot of talk about Professor X. One of the people that have been talking is Giancarlo Esposito, and let's hear what he has to say.
People have been rightfully wanting you to play Professor X potentially in the future Marvel film, which I'd be very excited for. Have you thought about how you might play that role if you were to get it?
You know, I've given it a cursory glance in my brain, and immediately I go, be great to play Professor X in some other incarnation than just a wheelchair. Right? Because so the physical idea of being in a wheelchair every single day does not appeal to me.
Yeah.
I just don't feel that old, and I don't like to sit that much.
Yeah.
But certainly we could figure something out, maybe. Professor X wasn't always in the wheelchair, but that is part of his character development.
Right.
So I think about it a little bit, but I don't give it all of my thought because I would have to come to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I saw a tweet saying you as Professor X and Denzel as Magneto, and that's just a license to print money, in my opinion.
I think it would be great. I think that'd be great.
Okay. Whoa, what happened? My camera. So I wanted to talk about this because this is a really great example of people not finding the source of the information, which if there's something that I want to preach on this show is always try and go to the source. Don't go off of things based off of headlines. Don't go off of things based off of tweets. Because I saw a lot of discourse surrounding this, and I saw the tweets, and I saw the headlines, and you know what? I tweeted out in response to some of them of like, oh, well, I guess this guy just lost the job. He doesn't want to play Magneto. Because when you just read the headlines and you see the tweets talking about this interview, it makes it sound like Giancarlo Esposito is saying, I refuse to play Professor X unless he's not in the wheelchair, and it sounds like he's saying Giancarlo Esposito is demanding that he wants to play alongside Denzel Washington as Magneto. When it's like clearly Giancarlo Esposito was asked the question, and he says he hasn't given it much thought. And he was like, I wonder if there's a way that I could play it where he's not in the wheelchair, because he was not always in the wheelchair. And then the guy, it wasn't even Giancarlo Esposito, the fucking interviewer, the guy that has nothing to do with the situation. He brought up the idea of Denzel Washington playing Magneto. And what is Giancarlo Esposito going to do? Is he going to go like, no, fuck you, Denzel Washington. I don't want to play Magneto alongside you. Obviously, he's going to say that would be neat. And this has just sparked so much debate on the internet and so much consternation where it's like, listen, if Kevin Feige goes to Giancarlo Esposito and he's like, hey, we really want you to play Professor X, but just so you know, the iteration of the character that we're writing is in the wheelchair. I'm pretty sure Giancarlo Esposito is going to say, all right, sure, I'll do it. But clearly he'd rather, I guess, play like a younger Professor X before he's in the wheelchair. Or I guess maybe do like an iteration where he's not in the wheelchair and he gets in the wheelchair at an older age. I don't think that's necessarily like a terrible idea either, by the way. And then, yeah, as far as like the whole Denzel Washington playing Magneto thing, the interviewer just randomly brought it up. Yeah. And listen, I'm mad at myself because I didn't like watch the interview before commenting about it on Twitter. So I'm including myself in this, but we as a whole really need to start getting better at media literacy. But anyway, in any case, it's an interesting conversation at any rate. I think the whole Denzel Washington as Magneto thing is interesting because immediately people go, no, Magneto has to be Jewish. And it's just funny because it's like, you guys know that there are black Jewish people, right? Like, those people do exist. I'm just saying. But then it also brings up the interesting idea of like, okay, well, in any case, whether it's Denzel Washington or not, should we at this point move away from Magneto's Holocaust origin story? Because The Holocaust happened a long time ago. And we would have like by the time this X-Men movie gets around, you would have to have like 100-year-old Magneto. And I mean, there is a pretty obvious fix for that. I mean, you could just have Magneto age slower. Like that could just be one of his mutant powers. But then, in my opinion, that does end up being kind of a like a weird situation because it's like, okay, well, are we having a Magneto that's older than Professor X? Because I personally love like it when Professor X are like they're like around the same age. I like that. That's just me personally. I feel like that makes their rivalry and their camaraderie more interesting. So, but then it's like, so do we want to just make, I guess, Professor X age slower as well? I mean, I guess you could, but that does feel like a weird out in my opinion. And then they're kind of like aping on like Wolverine's territory because Wolverine is the older guy that ages slowly. It's like a weird thing. Like, this is where I'm at. I would not mind if they changed Magneto's origin story because, in my opinion, like the core aspect of Magneto's thing that you have to get right, in my opinion, is that he is a mutant that has experienced the horrors of humanity that have caused him to hate humanity. Like, to me, that's like the core essence of Magneto's character. And I mean, you don't have to do the Holocaust to do that. Like, listen, humans are cringe. There are plenty of atrocities that we have committed. Unfortunately, like, there's like a bunch of stuff that you could do. So I wouldn't mind it if they changed the Holocaust origin story. But at this point, in this political climate, with how whiny people are on the internet, I don't know that it's smart to do it. Just because people will get mad. They will complain. So you probably shouldn't do it. But I wouldn't mind if they did. So we'll see. Like, I think like Giancarlo Esposito, I'd love to see him as Professor X because I think he's definitely been typecasted as like a villain. So I'd love to see him in a good guy role, whether it be Professor X or not. And I don't think he's saying like, I will not play Professor X if I'm in a wheelchair. I don't think it's that. So we'll see what happens. All right. Next up, Agatha has changed the name or whatever. So I don't even remember what the last name of it was. I think it was like Agatha All Along or Agatha All the Time or Agatha Suck My Dick. They've now changed it to just Agatha. I have no thoughts. I'm going to be completely honest. Whatever. Next story. The Batman has been delayed because I cannot have nice things. I'll try and call myself here. It's coming from Variety. The gritty comic book sequel, The Batman Part 2, in which Pattinson will become the Caped Crusader again, has been postponed a year from October 3rd, 2025 to its new date on October 2nd, 2026. My bad. I forgot to add more like stuff here, more like images, but I guess I'll just say it. My apologies. But it's being reported that the primary reason is because of the Hollywood strikes, like the writer strikes, and that just caused Matt Reeves, the director, to not be able to write his script on time. So that's why they're delaying it. And then there's been other reporting by Jeff Snyder. I will mention. He said that it's the main reason is because of the strikes, there aren't enough like sound stages available. Like they're all booked up. So the Batman just wasn't even going to be able to utilize the sound stages that it would need. So that's apparently what he's saying. I don't know. I mean, like I get all of that. And I don't doubt that a lot of that is the reasoning for it, but I also feel like, okay, but like a year? You need a year? My guess is that I think all of that is playing a factor. And I also think that for whatever reason, they just really want to release this movie in October. Because, like movie studios and their marketing departments, whenever they decide when they're going to release a movie, it is for very specific reasons where they are like, this is the date where this movie will make the most amount of money. We've done like the math and we've crunched the numbers, and like the Batman Part 2 should come out in October. I think that's ultimately the reason. I don't think that they need an entire year for Matt Reeves to finish writing a script and for like sound stages to become available. But I will say, if that really is the reason, if it's for like script reasons and stuff, then good. You know, at the end of the day, I just want a great movie, and if you need that much time to make it a great movie, then go for it. But we'll see. Hopefully this isn't a ruse, and hopefully it doesn't get canceled or something weird like that. But I made a video on my main channel where I go into conspiracy theories that probably aren't true, but I recommend checking that out if you want. All right, next up, let's get into the X-Men 97 drama. So this is like the executive producer, the showrunner of the show, and he's been fired. So this is from the Hollywood Reporter. DeMaio, Bo DeMaio is his name, Marvel regular who previously wrote on live-action series Moon Knight, as well as early drafts of companies delayed but still upcoming vampire thriller Blade, had completed writing duties on Season 2 of X-Men 97, was lining up press and making plans to attend the show's Hollywood premiere on March 13th. He was even discussing loose ideas for a third season with members of the team. But early last week, Marvel and DeMaio suddenly parted ways. His company email was deactivated, and cast and crew were informed he was no longer on the project. DeMaio's Instagram account, once a source for X-Men updates, was deleted. No reason for the firing was given. It is unusual for a top creative on a Marvel project to miss a premiere or cancel press plans last minute, even if they've been shuffled to the side. So, so Jeff Schneider also has like a video on his podcast, so we're gonna listen to that right now.
Yeah, I think he was probably difficult to work with and getting on everyone's last nerve, and I don't think the OnlyFans stuff helped. I think that's where I'll leave it for now. And if you want more, you can subscribe. But yeah, I don't think that the OnlyFans thing worked in his favor.
So yeah, so that's all the information we have now. The trades are just reporting that he was fired. Jeff Schneider, he's saying that he was difficult to work with, and that's why he was fired. And that apparently his OnlyFans was an issue as well. Again, well, we have to wait for Snyder to like write out his piece and whatnot, to see if things are more clearer. But yeah, I mean, it has to have. Like, what could he have done? I'm so curious. I want to know the tea. The tea needs to be spilled. Like, what could he have done for him to be fired like this? And then as far as the OnlyFans thing, I mean, listen, I didn't look into his OnlyFans, but from what I understand, he doesn't post explicit stuff. I think there might be some shirtless pictures there. So yeah, I don't know. But then my whole thing with that is like, okay, if the OnlyFans thing is a problem, it's like, motherfucker, you hired him like years ago, and apparently his OnlyFans was there like when, like, he's had it for years. It's like, why wasn't this addressed before then? Because listen, I'm pretty progressive. I don't care about OnlyFans. If like a woman wants to have an OnlyFans, I don't care. But it's probably reasonable for like Disney to be like, hey, we kind of have a squeaky clean brand here. We don't really want you to have an OnlyFans. So if they were like, hey, we need you to take down your OnlyFans. We don't want this to become a thing once the show comes out. And if he refused to do it, then yeah, I guess I could understand firing him. You know, obviously when they're saying that, oh, he was trouble to work with, that could mean any variety of things. I mean, if he did really bad stuff in the workplace, you know, HR kind of stuff, if you know what I mean, then yeah, obviously it's fair to fire him there. So we really have to know more before we make any real strong judgments here. But not good, not good that you're firing your head writer. Because by the way, we've gotten our first reactions for X-Men 97, and apparently they're really good. Like, well, to be clear, critics have seen the first 3 episodes, so apparently the first 3 episodes are really good. So apparently it had nothing to do with the quality of his work. But we will have to wait and see. All right. Last story of the day. Venom has a title and a release date. This comes from Variety. The third installment of the Venom franchise finally has a title, Venom: The Last Dance. Sony has also moved up the film's release date to October 25th, 2024 from the previously announced November 8th date. I don't care about Venom. This Sony universe of Marvel characters, the Spunk, or whatever the acronym is, it's obviously not been very good. I mean, obviously they had some financial successes with the first two Venom movies, but I don't think those movies are good. Morbius is terrible, obviously. Now, I will say, in my opinion, Madam Web does, like, it crosses the line of becoming so good it's bad. So I did like watching Madam Web, but it is not a good movie. Kraven, I don't have any faith in Kraven. I don't have any faith in Venom 3, so... Okay, honestly, the most notable thing about this is that it's called Venom: The Last Dance, so presumably that's the end for the Venom movies. Like, that kind of indicates to me that Tom Hardy doesn't want to make these anymore. You've managed to make an entire trilogy of Venom movies without your universe having any kind of meaningful interconnectedness. That's hilarious. I mean, that's just funny. Like, what? Like, this whole Sony interconnected universe has just been such a dumpster fire. We will see what happens. I mean, at this point, this is what I think is probably going to happen with Sony. I think they're going to take Spider-Man back. Maybe Marvel Studios manages to squeak out another Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. But I think Sony is going to take Spider-Man back, and I think they are going to reboot the thing, because I clearly they can't survive without Spider-Man. Or I don't know, maybe they like make Miles Morales movies or something, like live action Miles Morales movies without Marvel Studios, something like that, because they need to do something, because clearly the whole, hey, let's make movies off of the villains and Madam Web isn't working well for us. But we'll see what happens. And yeah, that's going to be it for this episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. Had a bunch of interesting topics to talk about today. Let me know what you think about any and all of them in the comments down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.